Hey, what it do, Fit Fab? It's your girl, Maine. Welcome to another episode of Bikini Talks with May and T. And we got a special guest, and we are so happy to have her on. We got Celeste, and Celeste is going to talk about a lot of different things. But let me do a little quick intro. Let me introduce her, and then she can talk a little bit more about herself. So Celeste is an NPC Bikini competitor. She does a lot of things online to help with people's mental health when it comes to help me competing. Um, and
are competing
yes,
in the
yes, yes.
bodybuilding industry as a
And
bodybuilding
I
sport.
actually have a list right here. I should just go down the list. And I didn't know you had a book. That's amazing. She
Yes.
has a book. Yeah, she
You
has a book.
actually have a book. And we're going to
Yeah.
talk about that.
She's a trainer. She helps people online. Do you do in person training too?
You know what? I gave up personal training a while ago. I don't even know why I still have that on my bio. I should probably remove it. But it has given people perspective that's how I started. It was as a trainer.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you guys didn't know, I kind of watched your other video earlier, and I had no idea you did jujitsu. My son did jujitsu for a bit, and my
That's
husband did
very
too. So
interesting. How did
yeah,
you get into that?
Do you want me to answer that now?
yeah, yeah. Okay. You know what?
What
Let's
is
allow
it?
Celeste to go ahead and talk about herself now.
I love that. That intro was so fun. So don't even stress it. So yeah, I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling, my bachelor's in psychology. I did write that book, Believe Your Way to Badass, prior to any of that, but that kind of gives you insight into where the passion stemmed from. And then with jujitsu, my dad is pretty awesome. And he had this rule where if we were going to start driving, we had to take self defense classes. And yes, I started taking self defense classes. And my instructor at the time, he was like, I think that you would do really good in jujitsu. And I was like, I don't know. And I was playing volleyball at the time. So I was like, I don't really want to get so into that and take away from volleyball, which foreshadow it did. But I'll give a little quick story on jujitsu. So anyways, started doing groundwork, ground defense. He's like, you can do this. Started doing throws. That's more judo style. So now we're doing judo, we're doing jujitsu. I liked the no gi style. Eventually went into gi as well. I never competed in it because of my volleyball career, and I did get my blue belt, which was an awesome
That's
accomplishment.
amazing.
Thank you. It was very fun. Like
Your
I
background with all of these things.
yeah, it's just so random too, because I would go every morning to his garage and train before school. I was in high school at the time. I had my license. I was driving there and getting my training done. And then I would go to school and I'd have volleyball practice, and then I'd coach volleyball, and then I'd be in the gym too. Everything was happening all at once, but I had that drive and that desire. And so I was awarded for it, which was great. And then unfortunately, one day I went in and my normal sensei wasn't there. And he's like, I still think you should go. We have our Muay Thai teacher there. You can practice some of your takedowns, and then you can work on, you get the whole package. And I'm like, okay, maybe we'll do some striking. Well, anyways, in one of the takedowns, white belts are very dangerous.
Oh
Okay, because
yeah, they
there's
go
no
hard.
control.
Yeah.
Yes, no control. So one of them picked me up, slammed me right on his knee, and I broke my ribs. And then
Oh
that
my
kind of tainted a lot of things for me. It was in the most pivotal time of my volleyball journey too, junior year of high school. So I still got recruited for volleyball. I ended up quitting to pursue the fitness side of things. And all in all, that really led me down the greater path, which is finding psychology as my passion and doing what I'm doing now. So kind of all worked out for me.
Yeah, it did. And then
I'm
you did
so
I
amazing
heard
how
like you did the
everything
whole
just
thing
kind of
with volleyball and coaching
takes
and
you to
raising
where you
money for your. Oh, go ahead. You know what it is?
Okay,
I
wait.
blame it on this.
Right now. So sorry.
You go first. Go.
Well, we're just both very, admiring you because this
Oh,
is just so amazing of you to have so much background. You've got into volleyball, jiu-jitsu, and coaching and volleyball and fitness and then to bodybuilding. It's just your whole path is just it's just amazing. You've been very active throughout your life.
super active.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You know
That's what I
what's
want to do with my daughter too. Like, you know how you did jujitsu? I'm kind of
yes,
thinking your dad wanted you to be able to defend yourself because you're a female and with everything going on.
yes.
Because I had that mentality with my daughter, but my daughter's like, no, I want to be an actor. And I'm like,
Oh, see, I was like, I don't want to do it because it's intimidating, but then I got so much confidence and empowerment from it. Like, I would encourage every woman to take self defense classes, not just one every once in a while, because it becomes like second nature. Like, I feel so confident now that I could defend myself or protect myself, even though I haven't been on the mat practicing because of all the reps and the hours and the time I
yeah,
spent. And it's the simplest things. Like, you can learn how to escape things in a moment that otherwise you wouldn't know how simple it can be, and that high stress environment can really take you down, but it just gives you confidence for other areas of your life. And when you mentioned the volleyball coaching, Teresa, the reason I started coaching volleyball was so I could pay for my gym membership, because I
Yeah,
wanted to start
for
working
me.
out at the gym. Yeah.
It's like
that's awesome.
it's so random how you were just talking about. Well, my dad wanted you to like do. Oh, before you get your license, you need to do this, and then your instructor introduced you, and then all of a sudden you just like follow the path, and it's like, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So since you talked about Muay Thai, did you try Muay Thai?
No, no. I mean, I didn't really have a shot after that class. My ribs were broken. I'm like, well, that was the one and done. I mean, we did a little bit. I did some drilling with him, but I never got into the striking. Honestly, if you can't take a hit, you shouldn't give one. And I knew I
Yeah.
didn't want to take a hit, so I much preferred the skill aspect of jujitsu and what was like really focused on that more so than the striking aspects.
That's
Oh, I think
awesome.
we should all do like a self defense class, and maybe you should teach us.
Hey, that would be awesome. Technically, blue belts can do that, so that would be really cool if I
Yeah,
did.
No
you guys can teach
striking,
classes.
okay? No
That's awesome.
striking.
See, I like
Yeah.
striking. I
Not
have
a
a Muay Thai
get a
background.
broken rib or anything.
Yeah, I can't do jujitsu. I tried jujitsu because my husband's a blue belt too, and so I tried rolling with some of the girls that he trained with, and I couldn't like understand like distributing body weight a certain way, and it was just hard for me, right? And then, but when it came to striking, that was easy for me because I can read and see what's coming, and it's
Wow.
just it's funny how like the ground people understand the ground stuff, and then the stand up folks know the stand up stuff.
Yes.
So we can teach a class together.
What's your first
Exactly.
student?
You can learn the best of both worlds, T. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. We're doing a next episode. Will be Celeste teaching us how to do it.
We're gonna do a virtual. We'll do a virtual once nobody's ribs don't get broken.
Yeah.
So like this.
Hey, T, did you want to talk about her what was it that you want her podcast?
Well, yeah, because the thing was like I know you've been doing Confessions of a Bikini Girl competitor. Is it that's the title, right?
Confessions
And
of a Bikini
Confession of a
Pro.
Bikini
the
Pro.
Bikini Pro. Well, sorry, I'm so sorry.
Hey,
Anyway,
it's
I know
on the
you've
right
been
track.
doing, yeah, I know
It's
you've been doing
preferring.
this for so many years, and actually, how did you get into it? Now we're just like starting. You have like probably good little pointers for us.
Oh yeah, of course. I actually was just interviewed on another podcast, The Real Raw Real, and I was giving them some feedback after too when they were asking for advice. I always like helping others in this space because, if there's more podcasts in the industry, it helps everyone's podcast to grow.
Mhm.
And it gets more messages out there, more perspectives out there. But that was in 2018, and essentially I had um it was weird. I was in a prep and I was on the treadmill and I saw this packet of Oreos in the garage and I was like, do pros think about that? And then I'm like scrolling through a bunch of pros feeds. I'm like, I don't know anything about these women. And yet the bikini division is the fastest growing division in the NPC. And then, of course, that means the IFBB as well. And I'm like,
Mhm.
so why aren't we getting more spotlight on them? Why don't we know more about them outside of their photo shoots, outside of their Instagram feeds? Like, who are these women? Some of them are incredibly impressive and we don't even know it. And I was like, I want to know more about what happens behind the scenes, especially because I believe that success leaves clues. So selfishly, I was like, I can start a podcast, interview these women. And I knew how to podcast because prior to launching my own, I was actually editing somebody else's in the
Oh,
business
cool.
coaching space. Yeah, I was one of his assistants. And so I learned how to edit, I learned how to podcast because of that. I'd been on a lot of podcasts at that point from starting a business at a young age and having some good success. And then because of that, I was like, you know what? This has nothing to do with the business that I was running at the time. So I got some feedback of like, are you sure you really want to do a podcast for competitors? It's not really your niche. And I'm like, this is a passion project. And I remember I went on a walk with my late mother, and I was like, I have this idea. And she's like, so when are you recording the first episode? And it just took her saying that for me to do it.
Oh,
And I didn't think anyone would ever want to be on the show. I thought I'd be begging people to come on. But since then, it's like people are telling me it's on their vision board. It's part of their like dream. And I'm like, this is amazing. And it's a special thing. And it really started because I wanted to shine light on the women of a division that I thought needed more light shown on them and learn from these women who are in a position that I want to be in. And I thought that they could give me some insight into how to get there. And if I was curious about it, I could only imagine others who were curious about it. And I had just refallen back in love with competing. And then through that podcast, I realized that a lot of the mental struggles that I faced or the mental demands of the sport that I faced were being faced by a lot of other people. And that's when things started to really hit me, where I'm like, what am I doing with my psychology degree and my fitness coaching in this general population when I'm so passionate about competitors? I'm so passionate about, and I don't even just serve competitors, but I'm going to refer to them. But like at the time, it was like, I'm so passionate about this, but is there really a need? And will people want to work with someone on their mental health? And I started doing all these interviews privately. So a lot of market research, talking to competitors about their struggles post-show, started by launching a post-show program. And then that revealed more to me about how a lot of them struggle with food relationship, body image. And it just has really grown since then. But it was because I trusted starting that passion project that the rest of my mission and purpose began being revealed to me, and how to use my mission, build more than just a body, for bodybuilders. And that wasn't clear to me until then. So that's really the background behind that.
That's awesome. How you just fell into
yes.
place. It's like this is your
Yeah,
calling,
about
you know, and
everything.
it
Yeah,
just
it's
went.
definitely a calling.
Thank you.
I love how that just like falls into right in place, and you just you know like sometimes you're trying to figure things out where things are gonna lead you to, and then eventually it just led into like, well, I'm already doing it. I'm here. This is what it is. You know, it's
Feels
like one
good,
day
huh? That
this is
feeling.
it. You know,
Yes. So good. And it's like, why didn't, it's like, you know, you're in the right place when you're like, why didn't I think of this before? And then you're like, it's been in front of me the whole time. And then it was just flow versus like trying to make things work. It's
Right.
suddenly, and I'm telling you guys, I was not like successful right off the bat. I had 2 people in my first post show program, and I was like, I'm going to do great. This is going to be fine. And I was so positive about it. I was like, I just have to break down the barriers between competitors and mental health professionals. And then that's part of why I went on to pursue my master's, because I knew I could have even more of a voice in the mental health space if I did that. I could learn more about other problems and help competitors from a more holistic point of view as well. So everything was just so passion driven versus trying to make it work or figure it out. It's like I got to finally talk to people I really connected with differently.
That's awesome. That's
I
an
know.
awesome place to be in. I'm happy for you.
Thank
I
Yeah,
want to
I
be
you.
like
love
you when
when
I
that
grow up.
happens.
Aw.
I love that you didn't give up either, because it was just like, you know, when you love something, you know, like it just kind of happens, and it's like unfolds in your, you know, right in front of you. So it's I'm glad, and I'm very very happy, and I admire you, and like, you know,
Aw.
everything that you've done
She's
so far and
fangirling.
accomplished. So I'm like, that's why I said, do you think we can get Celeste?
Oh, that's so
I know.
cool.
And I was like, well, I've talked to her one time, and I was supposed to do this food relationship thing, and I don't want to ask her because she might ask me if I finished that program, and I didn't.
You're
And I was like,
good.
go back and do it.
May, I was like, why do I know you? And then I'm like, I couldn't put my finger on it. And now I get it.
Yeah, that's how you know me. I was
Well,
supposed to. We talked one time because you offered like a free consultation, and we're talking about my
Yeah, with
relationship.
the food relationship. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, I can only do so much to help her, and I said, you need help.
Well,
I
that's
can't.
good.
Well, actually, I told her I was doing it with you, and she should do it too. So don't even go there.
Okay, you know what? We call her Linda because she doesn't listen.
I do listen.
You know what? Linda.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you'll see it every now and then. These guys call me Linda. I know sometimes I get stubborn,
Oh,
but when I get close to my show, I get down. Like I'm serious. It's just
of course.
Oh, when it's really, really close.
I work super hard. Okay.
Well, before we trash each other here, I have
Yes,
some
let's get
questions
to
to
the
ask
questions at
Celeste.
hand. I will go first. All right. So, question number one: how does bodybuilding impact mental health positively?
Ooh, that's a great question. Most people only ask me about the red flags and the negatives, so I appreciate you
Oh,
opening with
that's
that
gonna be there too.
perspective.
What's
That's
next?
great. That's fine. That's totally fine. Well,
We'll break it down.
it gives you something to aim for and to strive for, and that provides a lot of meaning in life. And especially when maybe you're distracted with other things and other callings in your life or other roles that you have, whether that be work or relationally, having bodybuilding gives you a focus that allows you to take a lot of personal responsibility. You can't pursue bodybuilding successfully, I don't believe, without personal responsibility. The ability to look at yourself and say, here's what's going really well, here's what's not going so great, and here's how I can change this, or here's who I can rely on to support me in changing that. So there's a lot of self responsibility that gets developed, of course, self discipline, and the ability to know that you can do what you say you're going to do. That's self efficacy. So you build that confidence in your belief in your ability to do things. You also develop, I think, a lot of connections with others who enjoy a lifestyle similar to you. And you really can't put a price on that for your mental health. Having community is so important. And I think people
Yes.
talk about bodybuilding as a selfish sport. Yeah, you're doing it day in and day out by yourself. You're the one waking up to the alarm. You're the one prepping your meals. Maybe, there's a lot that goes into it. Yes, personally, but when you
Hmm.
have community, it adds to your life. And we are relational beings. We're born from relationship. We
Yes.
thrive with relationship, and we sometimes feel so isolated that we're looking for somewhere to fit in. And I think there's a lot of misfits in bodybuilding, and there's a lot of people who haven't fully found a community until they found bodybuilding. So I think that that's another really positive mental health impact, is that it gives you a place where you feel like you belong. And then it allows you to use a lot of your strengths and improve on your weaknesses, if you want to call them that, or other people would refer to them as opportunities. But if you think about, like, a lot of us are maybe more type A personality, or we want to be, or we are. So it gives us a healthier place to put that energy as opposed
Right.
to somewhere else. It's a nice
Like
stress
drinking and
relief
partying.
too. Yeah, yeah. There's so much it can add to your life if you let it. But that's the key, is if you let it, right? So those are a few I would name.
I actually love that you mentioned that because it didn't really like kick into me until later on, where I just, for the first time, I've kind of felt like this is where I belong. Like this is my passion, or this is like, even though it's like something that I do on the side, aside from work, but I felt like finally this is something that I love to do that kind of fits my lifestyle, or like at least I kind of felt I belong there for some
It
reason.
makes you happy.
Yeah, and yeah, like it's like, oh, finally, even though I'm like working on my own and myself in the gym and whatever, but I just felt like this is where I am. This is what I love to do, and I can see this more long term, and even after competing, I could still see it's something where I know I have a community to like tap into, you know.
Yes.
So like, but with that being said, and I've all of the things that you've said about the positivity of these things, I know after weighing that there is also the negative side of it, of like the effects of the mental health and what's associated with bodybuilding, and how can an individual mitigate or address that, those concerns.
That's a really good point. So, preventing the risks of bodybuilding takes a lot of awareness and the willingness to address it consciously every single day. Because prep, as great as it can be for focus and developing yourself, can also be a wonderful distraction from emotions and personal experiences. It can actually take you out of the moment more than put you in it, because it's like your opportunity to say, I'm disconnected because I'm in prep. I'm not going because I'm in prep. I'm not eating that because I'm in prep. I'm not going to do a date night because I'm in prep. So there's a lot of dissociation, I think, that occurs even from emotions too. So that's really unhealthy. That can come up from it, is if you just prioritize so much of the doing and you forget the feeling and the actual engaging with the process. You're going to miss a lot of the lessons, because sometimes we turn to bodybuilding as a way to cope instead of as a way to learn. And you can
Right.
utilize your gym sessions as an escape, or you can utilize them as like exposure to let yourself start feeling those emotions, let yourself have this newfound awareness, not just through mental but physical, where you're starting to connect back to your physical body, maybe after trauma or after pain or heartache. So preparing to mitigate the risk of shutting your emotions off is, I think, every day have some sort of check-in with yourself. And if you have been shutting your emotions out, set an alarm every once in a while on your phone to go off that just asks, how am I feeling? Or this is one of my favorite tactics I give to clients, but if you have kids or you have a partner or you have friends who'd be willing to do this, they can come over and put colorful stickers in random places of your house. And I would call them mindful moment stickers. So every time you finally see one, you take a moment to be mindful, and that's when you can say, like, how am I doing? What am I feeling right now? What is the experience that I'm having? Another red flag that can come up, of course, is disordered eating patterns, or the decision not to address them or face them prior to getting into competing. And bodybuilding kind of acts as like this excuse for it. At least that's how it was for me. Like, oh, I don't do this because I compete now. When really it was just I didn't want to face those concerns. And it's so normalized in the fitness community, unfortunately, to have binge eating patterns, restriction eating patterns, or even that cycle just repeating itself, guilt around a lot of foods. I mean, nowadays you can't eat anything without guilt. They make it seem like everything's terrible for you. So that's a big red flag, is trying to emulate an ideal that doesn't actually support your longevity in the sport. So how do you mitigate the risk of burning out too soon, or the risk of falling prey to a lot of disordered eating? Is you have to implement things that you can sustain for a long period of time while also still challenging yourself. So it's not saying I'm just going to take it easy and not push myself, because that's not going to help you to grow. But it's also not saying I'm going to push myself so hard so I can be like the top Olympian I'm comparing myself to. It's finding that middle ground where you're going to progress and climb up that ladder for yourself, where you build that confidence, you build that trust, you build that strength and that belief in yourself that the next thing you execute on, you will be successful, versus feeding a failure mentality. So implementing things like mindful eating behaviors, both pre and post show, and of course during your prep. It doesn't just go away. We want to implement things like, how often are you body checking? So body image is another red flag that I see. I like to give competitors something I recently created about, I want to say it was almost a year ago now. It's like a body image check. So you can check in with yourself on, like, where do your eyes first go when you look in the mirror? Do you know your best posing angles? Do you know the best spot in your house to take a selfie, or at the gym? And you kind of increase your awareness around how often are we fixating on the body. And then we want to work to mitigate that behavior both in prep and in improvement season. The number one thing that we can do is try to make them as few differences between the two seasons as possible. So this way the transition doesn't feel like a huge pendulum swing. So it's not, I cut out everyone in my life, I don't eat anything I enjoy, and I just absolutely die in the gym every day in prep, to in improvement season, I eat whatever I want, I go out, I drink all the time, I see all my friends. That pendulum swing is what usually creates that disconnect in identity. So this is the last piece that I'll share, because I could go on, and I have a ton of, there's like this whole post I made on Instagram, you guys, of the red flags of bodybuilding too, even down to like social media usage, because maybe I'll just share. Yeah, like with social media, we do think the community, it's great. That's the positive I mentioned. But the flip side of that is we forget that it's just a bubble in this earth. It's not the whole world. It's just a corner of Instagram, or it's just a corner of our life. You ask most people walking down the street, who is Miss Bikini Olympia? They're going to be like, what's Bikini Olympia? Like, what are the Olympics and who's wearing it? But, like they won't understand it. So it's important to remember that, like, if this is something you enjoy, this is something you love, this is a process you want to pursue, then that's what really matters. And so it really has to be important to you. And I was going to say one other one, but now congruency. Yes. Okay. Last piece. A lot of the times, red flag is people get into competing, or they stay in it or they crave the prep because it gives them control. Mm-hmm. And I find that the biggest difference is the control is the perceived need, but congruency is really the real desire. So you think you need control, but what you need is congruency. And congruency happens when you act as the person you believe yourself to be or want yourself to be. Mm-hmm. When you don't do that, that's when you start to have a lot of that resistance, a lot of that guilt, a lot of that I'm not good enough, a lot of that I'm never going to get there, not amount to anything, I can't seem to achieve anything. So we want to create congruency. A lot of the times we think that in order to get to be the person we want to become, we think we need to control every single aspect of that version of us. When in reality, what we need to do is step back and evaluate and say, what am I currently doing that aligns with it? What am I not currently doing? And what am I comfortable changing about these things so it could be a next step forward? It's not changing everything in your life at once and then hoping you get there. It's those baby steps. So I know I just blabbered on, but I hope that's enough to kind
I
of
was
give
visualizing it in my
all of
head.
that, because part of it focuses on awareness, really, you know.
Yes.
And it's the first thing that people should really understand is understanding your own self, and like where you are in the situation, you know, and just to recognize it. And a lot of people don't recognize that, and that's where a lot of people get lost, because they don't recognize where they are. They don't know what their situation is. They're just so lost, you know, like, okay, like, is that my normal life, and then do I go back to bodybuilding, and then where's the middle ground? They have no idea how to shift things, or they find an excuse and say, well, I want to get fit again because I like the look that I had before. So they keep on competing for that reason, and
It's the
not for,
post. Is it post
you know.
blue depression? Is
Yeah.
that what it's called? Or
Like post show blues. Yeah.
Okay.
It can be very intense too if you've been positively reinforced consistently for looking a certain way or getting leaner. The moment you start going into an improvement season trying to gain weight, gain muscle, you almost resist it because now people are like, oh, what happened to her? She's gained weight. And so then
Yeah.
your identity of the fit, lean competitor starts to shift. And that's where we have to redefine what it means to be a competitor. It's not just you're worthy and valuable when you're lean and photo shoot ready or stage ready, but
So
right.
true.
you're worthy and valuable because you're an athlete season after season, year after year, no matter the circumstance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I can
actually,
relate
the
to
one
that
thing that
because
I
I
really
went
love.
through that. Did you go
Oh,
through that?
you've been doing, huh?
I actually gone through that where I had the post show blues, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really hard. But then as the years passed, I've gotten better, and I'm like, oh well, it's off season. I have to love my body through all seasons, kind of thing. But it took a while for me to change that, to shift it.
Mm-hmm.
And for a second I was like, oh, this only happens to young folks because I'm old.
No,
And
we're
so
not
I was
old.
just
Don't say that.
okay, I'm not old.
No, but one thing that I do love, that I will actually use that, the one that you mentioned about getting some like colorful stickers or like post-its, just to have like a mindful moment, you know,
Yeah.
That is a
because
good idea, actually.
I do love post-its. First of all, I used to use post-its a lot before. Even like now, like if I have to do something, all my reminders are going to be post-its. But
That's
the
awesome.
colorful stuff is just more of like, oh, you know, it's something more like, it's livelier. It's like it has like that color pop on your life when you're trying to think. You know, you sometimes you can't help it.
Yes.
There's like negativity, or you know, you just like, you're just so focused on certain things that you forget to like breathe. Okay, you need to walk, you need to like, but that pop of color like on there, I was like, oh, okay.
Totally. I love that. I'm glad it resonated.
I'm gonna take that as a like one thing that I definitely will
Let me
start.
know how it goes.
Yeah, I will.
All right, next question. I think you answered this. How does bodybuilding contribute to developing a mental resilience or resilience or oh my
Resilience.
gosh, say it for me. I can't say it
Resilience
right
and
now.
discipline.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Well,
and
I
what,
can. Oh, go
oh,
ahead and finish it.
and then what strategies can individuals use to maintain a healthy mindset throughout their journey?
Okay, so I'll expand a tiny bit on the first part and then I'll give like a couple tips. So, the discipline and the resilience, I mean, just the sheer fact that you're exposing yourself to pain every single day in the gym alone is enough to build resilience. And it's in a controlled setting, which is a really positive thing. A lot of us have resilience from difficulties we faced in our lives, but also like to develop resilience as a choice is another animal. Like you're choosing to subject yourself to a level of pain that's going to make you grow and improve in some way. And then you're also going to develop resilience when you get on that stage and you're not number one. You're going to have to realize if this is what you want outside of the placing, outside of the outcome. You're going to have resilience when you think you've looked the best you've ever had and then you're 16th place or you're 17th because they don't place after 16, right? So there's going to be times where you think you've nailed it and You probably did. You did. You beat your last best self, but resilience to step on stage again, subject yourself to that judging and that criteria again, put yourself next to the next girl again.
Mm-hmm. I know that that's definitely a tough one. You know, we all gone through that for the first, you know, like first few shows. It's gonna be like you just have to like, you know, take it as a grain of salt and, you know, keep moving forward. And, you know, it's like this is how you test your, you know, if you're really good for bodybuilding, you know, like you have to take it in and just do your best, you know, like go back
I'm
and
like a
keep
prime
going.
example of that. You know what I mean? Like I did 7 shows and I'm like, oh, last place again. Okay, last
Yeah.
place. But it was just, it's fun. It was fun for me. But now that, I can see where my body goes, I'm just like, okay, now it's time to get competitive.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a great shift too. After you've stepped on stage a few times and you like realize you really love it, you realize you really want it, it does become about winning. You know, we can't deny the fact that we're competitors. We do want to win. We already know how it adds value to our daily life. That's why we've done it for year after year after year. It's okay to want to win and be competitive too. And part of the discipline growth and the expansion on that part of the question, when you show yourself every single day that you can do what you say you're going to do, you're naturally going to build up a discipline. And habits are really disciplines. We just associate the words differently. But what you do every day is technically a daily discipline because you're choosing to do it every day and it's happening every day and you're disciplined enough to do that. So you can develop discipline by setting yourself with goals or standards and actually doing them. And then when you realize, like, I can look back and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many things now I can't imagine not doing, but at one point was actually hard for me to develop the habit of doing. So that's another way is, yeah, like, you know, when you're okay, I'm trying to drink X amount of water, I'm trying to prep these meals, I'm
Mhm.
trying to track my macros. Those are things that you just slowly, like, they one day you wake up and you're doing it naturally. It's second
Right.
nature.
Yeah.
So, tips for keeping your mental health stable throughout a prep and into an improvement season. Well, definitely start in your prep or pre-prep, that's for sure, and then continue those habits beyond. So, yes, the emotional check-ins with yourself, definitely mindful eating behavior. So, not just thinking about eating for your physique goals, but think about eating for your life goals. Think about how it's affecting your focus
Right.
at work or in your family or how it makes you feel, your energy. How do you sleep after you eat certain meals? Really ground yourself in that. Focus on not just I'm eating the same food every day because it's the end of my prep and it's getting boring, but actually, like, how does this I don't know, green bean taste in my mouth today? How does the texture of this meat feel when I'm chewing it? Or how much slower can I enjoy this meal and how does that affect my digestion? Use it for not just data collection towards a physique, but also for personal insight and enjoyment that spans beyond physique goals. Because what I find a lot of the times with competitors who do struggle post show is that they no longer feel an attachment or a connection to the execution on that goal because it was solely reinforced for a physique or for the stage rather than also reinforced for their life. So, from a food relationship standpoint, I would recommend that, of course, along with eating foods that you're actually going to enjoy. And then
Mhm.
for body image, limit the body checking, limit it. It's so hard because you're starting to look the best you've ever looked. You just want to check yourself out all the time. You can do that. You can take your photos, you can check yourself out, but let's also include some barriers to entry that just create a healthier mentality when doing so. So before weighing in or before taking those photos or before posting on Instagram, ask yourself, how did I show up for myself this week that makes me proud? What am I feeling in my body right now that I'm excited about? What is it that I've developed, a strength that I've developed that I don't want to lose from my physicality because I'm so proud that I got here? Or how is my body showing up for me when I'm not having much food? I am pushing her to her limits. I'm not getting much sleep. What is going on physically that I can show appreciation for? But if you're really, really struggling with the body checking, I would say when I was, studying different things about body dysmorphia. Now, generally there's body dysmorphia related to face, but we're going to talk specifically more so maybe seeing a distorted body image too. So,
Mhm.
like, what they found is the eye movement pattern is different. And while this is personally anecdotal and just from my own experience with clients and members, I had some clients start putting cardboard, and I tested it for myself too because I was struggling with this. Everything, I mean, I'm telling you guys, I've lived it. So put the cardboard over your body it'll start training your eyes to look up in the mirror at your face first. That's a good reminder to connect with yourself, lock eyes with yourself, have a conversation about what you're proud of yourself for, excited about, looking forward to that day. Just retrain your brain to look up first before looking at your, how tight's my waist today? How big are my glutes? Where are my shoulders at? What's my ratio? We get it. You're a competitor. You're being judged on those things. Let's just take a moment first. And then second off, if you're always doing the ab check in the mirror, it's going to probably affect you post show because it takes some time for your eyes to catch up and adjust to your growing body. So you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I put on so much weight, when really you haven't. You just are starting to look more like a normal person versus a stage lead body. So I would recommend wearing a shirt underneath a shirt or tucking in your shirt. It's just one more barrier to entry you're going to have to go through before you can body check, which means it's one more opportunity to think about it. Just like if you're trying not to text your ex, for example, you'd probably block their number, or you'd put your phone on airplane mode, or you have to go through many barriers to open that text message, right? So it's important to have barriers to entry to the things that we're trying to increase our mindfulness around.
That's a good idea. Actually, I've never thought about it, but like it's been definitely, we've all had experiences like after the post show, like, like, oh, like, damn, like, I feel like I'm so lost because I don't have a goal anymore, like,
Yep.
what do I do now? So, like, you just kind of like one day you go back and you look in the mirror and it's like, uh oh. And then you weigh yourself and I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually like how I look after the show. I'm just like, whoa.
I know, you're all pumped. You have the veins. Yeah.
The first few weeks, it doesn't really much matter, but it's more of the months, like after 3
It's the months. Yeah, it's like, whoa.
That's where,
after
you
20
kind of
days.
like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I gained like 10 pounds. But you know what? I'm enjoying more of the post show like now because I've seen myself like super lean to the point where I got so scared because I was so lean and like I was so happy to have my cheeks back, and I was like, every time like I had like a bigger smile and I like, even though they're puffed like, much bigger, and I was like, oh, there they are.
Well, I know, because you start to look like, you get like your mouth almost seems like huge compared,
Yeah.
at least that's what I noticed when I would smile in my improvements. Like I had all these, or in my prep, I have all these wrinkles and my mouth would be like ginormous, it seemed like.
I know they were like much bigger than my jaw or like whatever. It was like overpowering, but I was like super happy. Like when people
Yeah.
ask me, I was like, Teresa, how do you feel like after post show? It's like, I'm so happy to have my cheeks back.
Yeah. And those cheeks too. I get happy about the other cheeks.
It's like, I definitely get those. And it's like, I was like, I know.
I haven't gotten to that point where mine look like Skeletor.
Yeah, I noticed some women don't get it. Like I wouldn't say I get super Skeletor. Like some people you can see the like cheekbones. I've not gotten to that point, but I think all of us, like, we get at least some more leanness in our face where we look almost unrecognizable, at least if someone hasn't seen us in a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
no,
feel like my
I've
head
seen
is bigger than my
my
body.
side had striations, and I was like, nah.
Yeah.
I know we were FaceTiming and I took a picture and then I posted it. She's like, take that shit down. And I'm like, okay.
No, like that was actually one of the first preps, or at least the prep where I just kind of felt like this is like, wow, like I've never seen myself like this crazy lean, to the point where I was very conscious about like showing myself to anybody because
Yeah.
I felt I was sick. I looked sick, and I was like, that doesn't look healthy, like for me. But at the same time, it was just like, people were, like, oh, what, yeah, great abs, like great shoulder, whatever, the body is like good, And I was like, just don't look at me. Just like, I don't want to look at you, Like, I would walk away. I would look down because I was like, I couldn't.
Is that
I
why you wear
couldn't.
the hat? Is that why you wear a hat to the gym so you like can hide?
Sometimes, but not. But it's more of like that part where I've never thought I would feel that way in the extreme sense of like leanness as well. How like you get the the post show blues of like, oh, I'm starting to get a little bit fat now. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna wear a tank top anymore, or like a crop top, because now I don't have abs. But it was different. It was like I also saw the other side of it, to the extreme side of things, where I'm just kind of like, whoa, that was the first time I got scared, where, like getting too lean is not like, healthy either. So when like when I was actually enjoying post show,
Yeah.
like thank God I'm getting there. Thank God I have a little bit fat, like, and then, and
Yes.
then actually finding a healthy balance. So that was actually, like now I get to enjoy most, all of the side of the journey, like whether it's, pre, during and, like post, which is like, I'm just happy. It took me so long and so many years, but I'm happy that I got there
I love
because it
that
takes
for
time and
you.
practice,
It
mentally I
does.
practice that.
Yeah, like, and I'm glad you brought up that side of it because it's not talked about enough. But those deep times in prep when you're super lean, like, there are times when you want to hide. Like, there were people I remember I didn't want to see me at the gym because I knew they would ask me questions that were valid. Why are you so lean now? Why are your bones sticking out? Like, why are these bones showing so much? Or I would have bruises on my back, like on my
Mm-hmm.
spine from laying down, or I couldn't even sit down without a pad.
Yeah.
I was
Sitting
self-conscious
down,
about like the booty because I'm like, it's like not, it's different. You can
there's
have
no
muscle
cushion.
there, but it's like, yeah, until you hit that back pose, it's like, what happened? So yeah, I get that.
And like before, we would sit down and it would be like, oh, that's fine. And then like
Yep.
now it's like we would get like, whoa, I feel that. Like, you need
Yeah,
to put a little pillow there, just to have a little cushion, when you're driving, it's like,
exactly.
but yeah, it's like I understand that a lot of people do get the feeling of the post shows and all that stuff, but also going to the extreme side of like leanness, I don't think a lot of people do talk about that either because you know it's hard to get there. I know, but it's
Yeah.
the same time you do feel the same way, of like, no, this is too unhealthy, this is too like too extreme, or you do feel that conscious, like being conscious as well, when you get to that point.
Yes, and some people struggle even to come out of that leanness. I had a friend of mine who was so lean and then she was struggling to actually gain weight after the show, which was really throwing her mentally for a loop because she didn't like how lean she was, but she was having gut issues, wasn't really properly digesting her food,
So
wasn't getting the most out of it. So she wasn't growing after and was facing these other issues. So that's another point is like other people will look at you and maybe assume things. Either assume you're too afraid to gain weight, assume you've gained too much weight, assume you've let yourself go, that you're binging, that you're not eating enough. People will always assume something. And sometimes at your absolute mental best, people will think you're at your worst. And sometimes the opposite is true. So we have to maintain perspective on our own journey, and being willing to talk about it and share about it, I think adds perspective to others too. Because there was a
true.
time in my journey where I had gained a lot of weight, but I was very strict with my reverse, following everything to a T. I had just gone through some major trauma with the loss of my mom, on
I'm so
top of a
sorry
lot
about
of
that.
other things. Thank you. There was a lot of other things happening too. And it's like, people could look at me and think that I was binging or I blew it or I didn't have a proper reverse, or but it was like I was my best because I was showing up when I didn't think I could anymore. And it's like I didn't care how I looked, how I like how other people thought that I looked or what they thought I did, because I knew I was showing up for myself when I wanted to give up. And not just give up on bodybuilding, give up on life. So sometimes people will assume something by how you look because of what's perpetuated in the sport as one extreme versus the next. But you only know how much you're doing for yourself, and that's what really should matter.
Yeah, and I think we should also start being more, should I say, I forgot what I'm supposed to say. I had something. I know I had something. No, because I think we're so conscious about what other people are thinking as well. You think
It's
Yeah.
that
you.
they're thinking
It's you
that way.
versus
It's
you.
a
That's
lot of
it. It always should
assumptions.
be you versus you. That's
Like it's all in our head. Like we're all thinking that they're thinking something about yourself, but you're not thinking about what you really think about yourself. Like recognizing yourself first and how you feel, what really matters.
Love
Like
that.
if you feel confident about yourself, nothing else matters. You don't need to keep on explaining yourself, and the first person you say is like, wow, I look like this because da 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 da.
I'm off
You know,
season.
like,
Exactly.
you're like, nobody's asking you.
No.
Well, I just thought you were sad. But
Yes.
I think we get ahead of ourselves a lot of the time. Like as I think it's our nature, especially I don't know if you guys do this, but like me for sure, I overthink a lot. So I have a lot of these things like thinking as like, oh, she's looking some funny or weird. Maybe she's thinking this or like about me, and I'm like, and it was like nothing. She was just happened to be look at me.
Yeah.
And she just like glanced and looked, and like it meant nothing.
Yeah.
See, I
It's
don't
funny
do
how we
that.
assume it's a bad thing instead of like, I'm probably inspiring the crap out of her, or like, oh, she's judging me. It's like, no, she was probably thinking like, wow, what an amazing person or woman. But in our minds, we're like, do I have something in my teeth?
Yeah.
Are my pants on inside out? Like, we're not thinking the positive.
Well,
See,
that's
you
true.
guys are different. I'm like, new friend. Hi.
Oh,
She's a social butterfly. She would like
I
talk to
am.
anybody.
I
that's
am.
so cute.
I can't help myself. I can be anywhere and someone looks at me and I'm like, hey, how you doing? My name
She's
is
gonna be
May.
in the
Nice to
elevator and
meet
she
you.
can talk to anybody. I was like to a
That's
kid, to a
awesome.
dog, whatever.
She's like this. She was here recently and I'm in the elevator and it was like a party. And she's like, oh no, here she goes again.
We're total, if you know us both, like we're total opposite. I'm the quiet and serious, and she's like the funny and like very social. So we're
And we're
like
both Libras.
together.
We're both Libras. That's the thing.
See, I don't
Yeah,
know enough about astrology to know what you mean, but
don't
We're
get her
supposed to be
into that.
social
She's into
butterflies.
psychology, not
Okay,
not.
So let's go back to the question.
okay.
She
I
answered
love your guys'
the body image
differences.
one.
I think we complement each other, and we're the only ones who think that we're funny.
We
No,
do.
you guys are funny. Actually, before we got on this interview, I sent one of your videos to my best friend Rachel, and I said they're about to have me on their podcast. I'm excited. She goes, "Oh my god, they're so cute together. They're such a great dynamic friendship." I was like, "I know, aren't they awesome?"
Yeah,
Oh, thank you
it's
so
just
much.
been cool
That's so sweet
random
of you
things.
to
But thank you
say.
for sharing.
You're welcome.
No, I appreciate that. Like, but yeah, like
Yeah, we just
she's
connect.
definitely a talker. Yeah, she's a talker.
I
She
am.
talks a lot, so
I go
she
around
can
the world
entertain me for a
sometimes
long
and
time.
You guys are awesome.
But
all right. So my
anyway,
question it's my
but
turn. Shh.
it's gonna be the last one, right?
No, it's not. There's one more.
Because she did answer a few things
Oh,
where
she did. She
she
did.
talked
Okay.
about body image perception. We did talk about that,
Yes. Okay.
and
So
she did give about like
oh, she
specific,
did. She answered all of our
advice and
questions
tips.
already.
The last
I'm a
one,
big talker, you guys, so I'm sorry if I took the thunder
no,
of
no, no,
asking the
no, I
questions.
appreciate it.
It
No,
flow
because
as long as it flows, it's all good. Like
yeah,
Agreed.
it's okay, it's cool. No,
but you
but
had another question. Did you have another question
I
besides?
do, I do. I think it's just more of a personal question because you are a bodybuilder as well. You're a bikini athlete, and from your personal experience and story, you know, how has it been like coping with the mental health challenges? I know it took you a while to like actually recognize and got yourself into this, but in terms of like the health challenges or improving your overall well being, how did that change you? And can you tell us more about your experience with that?
I was just thinking the other day, like, how grateful I am that I did address it because of how much more it's given me in other areas of my life. Yes, it's made me a better athlete, and I believe it's going to equip me for a longer journey than I would have been set up for if I didn't address it. So it also has given me the freedom to say yes to more things in my life, like yes to a spontaneous meal out because I can trust myself, and yes to being able to track something randomly. Like the other day, I mentioned to my dad, oh my gosh, I have back to back calls. I didn't even prep my food yet. I'm going to have to prep that after. And then he made me something, which is very rare for my dad. Okay. It was so adorable. And I was
Sweet.
like, in the past, I would have been like, I can't have it. It's got this. And I was like, I can track
Yeah.
it. I can just wait. And if I didn't do the work before, I would have missed out on a really precious moment. And there were a lot of precious moments I missed prior when I was struggling with the disordered eating, when I was struggling with the body image issues. Like I was so self-consumed with it that it was like a wall between everything else that I could have experienced. And I don't even know what I missed in full, but I know I miss things, right? Because of
Yeah.
where I was at mentally. And so it's given me that. It was hard in a lot of ways because it's going against the norm of what I thought made me a good athlete. I thought I was so good because I followed a strict meal plan with only like 6 foods on it that I ate for a year straight. And I was like, I'm so good, I'm great. But what made me a great athlete was the execution, not what I was executing on. And that was a key lesson I had to learn was you might associate your success with a particular specific process. But what's really contributing to your success is the execution on a particular process, not the process. Yes, you have to respect what's required to get where you want to go, but the success you get is actually a result of the work you're doing, not so much the specifics. So when I started to realize that if I really wanted to have the success in the sport, and then I thought about who is Celeste who achieves that success and why am I not there yet? It was because I had so much resistance to what I was doing. I knew it just wasn't something I could sustain or even was aligned with my core values. And that's something I work a lot with clients on is their core values. And so when I started to realize, well, I need to find a process that aligns with my core values, is sustainable for me, but also still pushes me and brings out that drive of competition that I have inside of me. And I have the discipline. I know that I don't have to prove that. So when I just started to look at what type of process was going to get me there and stop comparing to what everybody else was doing to get there, I was able to free myself from a lot of expectations and standards that were unrealistic for me and actually open the door to a lot more success that I had had before. Not even just success as far as outcomes go, but success as far as response to the outcomes. Because I can ask a lot of competitors, like, would you rather win first place knowing that you didn't do everything you could or you didn't execute, or would you rather win first place or win last place or third place knowing you did every single thing you could and you proved to yourself what you were capable of? A lot of athletes, you guys are nodding your head, are going to choose that because you know what that does for you in the long run. You know what kind of champion mentality that builds. So I realized like the champion I'm going to become needs a process that is going to feel good to win a championship under, or to win. You want to win and know that you're proud of what you just won for. So that was what it came down to for me. So that's hard because you're looking at something that you thought defined you and you're saying no more. And in that process of change, there's a lot of setbacks. There's a lot of questioning and doubt and wondering, am I doing the right thing? And then you prove to yourself, yes, I'm taking more steps forward than I am backwards, even with the difficulties. Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say is I looked at it all like an experiment. So that allowed me to have a lot of self-compassion because instead of looking at it as criticism on myself, I was more so just, okay, I'm going to respond to this experiment that I'm doing of testing and tweaking variables. And then if the outcome that I like is a result of testing or tweaking this variable, then I'll continue with this. But if it's not an outcome I like and I tweaked that, then I won't use that variable. Rather than judging and being harsh on myself like I did for years, I was able to just release that and play the scientist in my experiment.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of just like, I think we should use experience as an opportunity to actually really learn and grow. And like I love that we all go through this process, right? Of prepping ourselves and like training ourselves and our mind through the process. But at the same time, it's the learning experience that recognizing all those were opportunities for us to be a better person. And I love that you mentioned all of those things in your experience as well. And because with all of that, I really appreciate you. And for anything else, like what's next, by the way, what's next for Celeste? Now that you have your book, you have the very successful podcast. What's next for Celeste?
5 years. 5 years.
5 years, you guys. Thank you. It's insane. I can't even believe it. I'm like, whoa, I never thought it would be what it is. And so I think that's inspiring to know what can happen again in the next 5. I even just saw a progress photo of me that I posted 5 years ago. I was like, I don't even know her anymore. Like, that's so awesome. It's like empowering. Some of my goals. So I'm actually under contract for my first home, which is exciting.
Yes. Congratulations!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm so happy. So I'm not just using that obviously for me. I'm hoping to host a lot of intimate events there. I even am trying to set up a podcast studio in there so I can do some more in-person podcasts, like giving guests who want an experience, a full experience where they can fly out, can work out in a home gym. We can record everything, do a whole production. I really want to kind of take it that direction. And
Wow.
then, yeah, I think that'll
So
be.
big.
Yes, and I've been in communication with some people in the NPC and IFBB, some promoters, and I can't share too much on that, but I'm hoping to just make more waves in the industry and make more of an impact for the competitors through the mental health process, really bringing that more to,
Awareness to it.
yeah, and hopefully incorporating that into some show interviews at actual shows and things like that. So I'm excited about the potential there. And then I'd like to write another book. I told myself after my master's degree I would, and it's now been a year since my master's, and I'm like, I've been too busy. I just have so much in my head, but that's something that I'll definitely hope to do. And of course, I want to compete next year. I want to win my IFBB Pro card. I want to start a family. I want to get married. I want to do the things, and because I'm really passionate about it and excited. So I could go on and on. If I were to dream really, really big, one day I'd like to have my own show that puts mental health at the forefront and gives every athlete and I've never said this on a podcast or anywhere actually, but I'd love to be able to have my own show where I'm giving every athlete the opportunity to have mental health support post show in their experience, as well as leading into the show. Once they register, they'll have hands-on material support and guidance. It's just something that I think would be a great addition to the industry. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot, you guys, but I would say those are a lot of them. But for me personally, I'm just building right now, trying to build the physique that I need to be more competitive next year, and just let that be enough for myself, and know that I'm doing better.
You
Hey,
really
that's
have contributed and made a huge impact already as it is for 5 years. And I truly believe, and I can actually see, for some reason, when I believe somebody, I know that they're going to go big. I can see that you're going to make a bigger impact, in the
Oh,
next 5 years, because bodybuilding is still growing,
yeah.
and now we're getting more exposure in the media. And I feel like you're going to be the first, people that are going to be
you're
like
a
going
trendsetter,
along
girl.
with them to get
Thank
big.
you.
It's just like
Thank you.
if there's anybody they're gonna be counting on in terms of mental health, like you're gonna be like, oh, I know it's Celeste right away. It's like on the top of the list,
Oh,
it's ready you. Like you're
thank
gonna be
you.
growing as much as big as this, as big as
Oh
this.
my
And for
gosh.
everybody watching right now, she actually has some free stuff online. So let me
Yes,
read it out to you. She has free post show blues coaching series, a food relationship program, a workshop to overcome mindless eating, and a competitor card deck. I don't know what that is, but I'll have to look at that.
that's like a bunch of decks, I am statements, like affirmations, thought provoking questions, so you can journal on them or talk about them with fellow competitors, or even just go through them mentally, as well as actual action steps to help you in your journey, whether that's prep or post show. So that's what the card deck is. But yeah, all of that's free, and share it with your friends or your teammates, or if you're a coach and you have clients who are in need of the mental health side of things. I have a lot of coaches and teams that I've actually partnered with who refer me, but I make it clear I'm here for the athlete and not the team, not the coach. Like, it's about you guys, so everything's for you and with you in mind. And I appreciate you saying that too, Teresa, because I really hope that my name gets thrown in the hat, not just because I'm really one of the only people doing this, if not the only one, but because I'm good at it, and because people know that I care. So I appreciate you saying what you said and for believing in me, because it's people like yourselves who have believed in me and who support me that give me the opportunity to support more people and allow me to live my dreams out, and my purpose out. So thank you guys for not just having me on the platform, but for being so kind and supportive.
Yeah,
Well,
I
no,
can
thank
tell that you're
you.
100% authentic. Like I can feel it right here.
I
Thank
know,
you.
and like she has just like this nice personality. You just want to hug her.
Oh, thank you. I hope we get to one day. That would be
Okay,
awesome.
group hug.
I know, it's like, so you guys, please, please, please watch this, and I please follow Celeste if you guys are dealing with any of this. Even for not just follow her. She's a very interesting person. I love following her.
And
I
I
love
do have a
watching
question before we let her go,
her.
because you like to
Oh,
ask everybody a question Just one question. But I'm gonna ask you something different because I want to, I just want to. You said throw you off, so I'm gonna throw you off.
Throw
Do you
me.
own a, do you own a Ninja Creamy?
I don't.
Ah, okay. Then I have to ask you the question that you ask everybody.
Okay, you mean what I do before stage?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even have it, and it's so weird. Like, I asked that, but I don't even have one. I just wanted a kickoff question for my podcast, to be
Yeah.
totally honest. I thought, that'd be an interesting thing to find out what people are thinking right before they go on stage. But personally, for me, it's kind of evolved. I think what I think about, at least in my most recent season, I thought about how far I come and how much I endured to get on that stage, and how much pain I went through, and how much I fought for the version of myself that knew she wanted to be up there again, and how much I stood up for myself, how much I grew, how much I worked, not just for the prep but for myself in other areas, career, education, and the mission that I'm on, as well as relationally. So it's reflection for me before I get on stage. I like to reflect, because if whatever happens on that stage, it's I got up there and I know what I put into that journey.
I love that. I love that idea because a lot of people think about like what they're gonna eat after the show. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not a reflection, honestly, right? They start talking about those things, but I actually like that idea of having to do a reflection because as soon as you get off that stage, when they do the prejudging, you will see those faces just kind of like some of them like frowning because they didn't
Yeah.
get their like their placement and not really seeing the aftermath of things, not preparing themselves mentally of what's going to happen instead of like giving yourself a path and say, you've gone this far. Thank you. You did your job, and
Yeah.
just giving yourself grace and be thankful and proud of yourself.
I'm so glad you said the whole what you eat post show, because I just had a conversation with my boyfriend. I was like, when I start doing these interviews at shows with competitors, I will swear I will never ask the question, what are you eating after the show? Because it's like my pet peeve. It's always been my pet peeve. I'm like, can we just have one interview where that question is not asked? So I'm like, I will never ask that. And if I do, it's because they told me to ask them. I'm putting that on the record.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
every time somebody asks me, it's like, "Where are we gonna eat?" I said, I didn't even think. I didn't even look. I'm not looking at Yelp, so because I know there's always somebody who's gonna look out and do that for us.
Yes.
That's,
Exactly.
somebody will volunteer themselves to do it. I'll just
Yeah,
eat whatever happens. Like whoever chooses the place.
that's awesome.
All
But
right. Well,
again,
hey
thank you
guys.
so much.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you coming on. I mean, this is a big thing for us because we just started. So
We're just
thank
like,
you.
oh my god, it's
It's my
Celeste.
pleasure. Oh, you guys are awesome. No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for opening your platform up for me too.
Yeah, for
Thank you,
sure.
and we'll be watching out for the coming soon of Celeste. And yeah, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be watching you, and hopefully we get to have you again sometime sooner in the future. And good luck with everything. I know you're gonna do good, so all the best to you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes.
Thank you guys.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you for watching another episode of Bikini Talks with your girl May and T. And thank you again, Celeste. Y'all have a blessed one. Peace out, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Bye. Thank
Celeste. We
you.
appreciate it.